Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Colorado Rockies. My name is Alex Murray, also known as AZ Axel, and we are moving into quarter number 4 of the 2025 season. Basically, the end of the season, the off season, and then a little bit of the early beginning months of 2026. You can see from the date on the screen right now, you can see it's already opening day, April 2nd, 2026, and our team has had quite a few changes. So we're going to run through our emails here first and let you guys get a chance to see what's been happening, and then we'll talk about all of the stuff that happened over the off season for 2025. First of all, we had only one Gold Glove, and that was basically the only award we got in 2025. That was, of course, Brenton Doyle for our center fielder. Our shortstop got taken away by a Gold Glove. Shortstop went to a Japanese player playing for the Mets and Padres, who technically is a little bit better at shortstop, but definitely did not have a better season than Tovar. So not happy about that. $18 million going to this kid at the age of 32, and somehow they went with him instead of Tovar. So we'll see how that goes. We did end up having our international free agents get developed, and this is where the fun comes in. So if you remember from our last video, we had about $20 million to work with, and we really were not expecting to be that active in the free agency market because we really weren't expecting. First of all, we weren't expecting anybody to be available that we actually would be interested in, because we want someone who's probably 26 or younger, who is going to be in the $20 million or under range, but is going to be able to be a 4-star or better player. And that just does not happen at the beginning of a live start. It doesn't happen until probably about 4 or 5 years down the road, when there is just so much better quality in the game that kind of result can happen. So you can color me surprised, and you can absolutely imagine my shock when there was not only just one really good player on the free agency from the international side, which is basically all we can afford are the international free agents, because all of the major league free agents require compensation if they're going to be that good. Not only was there Jose Contreras, who plays a little bit of first base and third base, he ended up going to the Washington Nationals for $23.6 million, but there was also Junseo Nam, probably one of the best developed starting pitching prospect at the age of 26 that I have seen in a long time. He was asking for about $24 to $26 million at the beginning of his free agency. And of course, we gave him a contract offer. And after about 2 weeks, because we ended up giving him, I'll go ahead and show you guys his full contract. He signs with the Milwaukee Brewers. This is the contract he ends up going for, $360 million for 9 years. Our initial offer to him was $24 million for the first 5 years, a player opt-out, and then I think it was going to be $34 million for 3 years, and then I think it was a little bit more at the end. And you can see the Milwaukee Brewers now have him staged for 5 years of $36 million, and then 4 years of $45 million. So he is an expensive little person at this point for the Milwaukee Brewers. The Boston Red Sox basically upped our contract by about $10 million after a couple of weeks of negotiating with him, because you can see on the 4th, he basically said that he was interested. A couple days later, the Boston Red Sox jumped up the contract requirements by about $10 million. We actually countered and said, sure, we'll offer you $34 million. I think we were offering $37 million on average for a year. It would have been pretty much most of our money, but when you have this kind of a player who suddenly joins the league, this can turn your team around, and this is someone you can build on. And the idea that you'd have 5 years for a starting pitcher who is mostly developed and would be a very good trade bait option as well after 5 years would actually be really good for an organization. This is the kind of person that you could actually sign for a short-term deal and then be able to flip for prospects when you need it most, when all of your stuff is developed. And we also just thought that this would kind of jumpstart the team a little bit. So we wanted to be competitive. We wanted to be competitive, offer him some deals. We had other deals out there in the works as well. And we just wanted to be able to see maybe we could snag him. And then, of course, immediately after we offered him that deal, the Los Angeles Angels, I guess, offered him a better deal, and they suddenly was asking for $44 million a year on average. Now, I don't know how he went from that down to his final contract, which is $360 million. I think his average per season is basically about 40, I believe, about 40, 41. So he did end up settling around that $40 million a year mark, unfortunately. But basically, the Angels and the Milwaukee Brewers and the Boston Red Sox beat us out. And it wasn't for about another week before he ended up signing with the Milwaukee Brewers, and he ended up landing with them. So fun little escapade trying to get Jung Seo Nam out of, I believe this is Japan? No, South Korea. My apologies. So out of South Korea, an interesting prospect, someone that we were interested in. We wanted to see if we could pick him up, but unfortunately, we were outbid by a couple other organizations, which is kind of to be expected right now. That did give us some options to be able to try to acquire other people, which we were doing at the same time. Actually, we had gone after Christian Arroyo, and now he's been released since then. It was a minor league deal, so it didn't cost us anything. We did end up signing Brooks Raley for a 2-year, $9 million agreement, so he's going to be $4.5 million per season. We thought that'd be pretty good for a relief pitcher for us at this point. While we were negotiating with Nam, we actually did do a couple of trades, and I do want to talk about these really fast because we actually realized that we could get Nam if we made some moves, so we did. We ended up trading away Chris Bryant, Braxton Fulford, Peyton Henry, Nolan Jones, Jordy Vargas, and about $3.5 million in cash for Javier Vaz. This was completely a contract just spill. It was complete just getting Bryant's contract off of our books. This gave us about $20 million because Jones is also not going to be very cheap once he gets to arbitration. And it just was a pretty decent deal for us to get rid of a couple of players who we just really are not expecting to develop into anything big. Vargas is okay, but he's not that great. Peyton Henry was our backup catcher in the 2025 regular season just for about a week at this point. We don't really care about losing him. Braxton Fuller actually had a really good season in single A, but he just hasn't really done much outside of the lower A levels, so he's not an important person for us to get rid of at this point either. And then Chris Bryant had a good season, but for $26 million, it's just really not worth it to keep him on the books. So it was a good salary dump for us to pick up, and we picked up Javier Vaz, who is going to be starting in AAA this season, but I highly anticipate that he will be playing in the majors at some point this regular season. And that did help keep us actually moving towards Nam. It actually allowed us to do that and raise our budgets for scouting and for player development. So we were very interested in being able to pair up a couple of contract negotiations or salary dumps, basically. We did another one. We ended up trading away Ryan McMahon, Diane Jorge, and we got Jose Leclerc, Drew Gilbert, and Willie Espin from the Mets in regards to that. We are retaining a little bit of McMahon's contract, and the New York Mets are retaining a portion of Leclerc's contract. So we ended up having to retain, I think we're retaining like 25% of Ryan McMahon's contract to have him go to the Mets. We ended up, of course, giving away Dian Jorge to be able to make that deal work, and he's a good infielder, but I just don't think he'll ever develop into anything more important than probably a AAA player. We got Jose Leclerc, who again gives us another bullpen arm for the regular season. We're expecting good things out of him. Him and, of course, Raley are supposed to be our 1-2 relievers to go alongside Vodnik for the regular season now, basically. And we're hopeful that those will be pretty good moving forwards. We also did pick up Drew Gilbert, a quad A outfielder. We're hoping that he might be able to develop a little bit more in our system and see if he can get to the majors, basically. Don't have a whole lot of hope for him, in all honesty. He's probably going to be a trade bait or a release down the road. Willie Espin is someone that we're a little bit more interested in. This is why we actually made this deal in the first place. This is a decent enough 17-year-old who could play corner outfield, has got some pretty decent developable options for his entire profile. And this is basically the reason why we made this trade in the first place, is because we could get someone like a Willie Espin. So again, salary dump while we were negotiating with Nam. We did not get Nam. We did get Raley. In the meanwhile, we were announced that we were given the number 2 overall draft pick. So for the upcoming 2026 season, we will be drafting 2nd overall, which is actually pretty impressive, considering that most of the times when I'm in these lotteries, I normally get screwed. So that was actually really nice. It was good to see that. With this information, the draft pool so far for the regular season, it looks like we're basically looking at potentially two different players. We're looking at Spangler and we are looking at Emerson. Those are basically the two people that you're probably going to be looking at for the upcoming draft at this point. We'll see who we have as options down the road. I'm still trying to figure out. I personally would like Grady Emerson if the who was it again? The Blue Jays? Yeah, if the Blue Jays do not pick Emerson, I wouldn't mind picking up Emerson. Spangler wouldn't be too bad either. The good power there would be nice. He's kind of a third baseman though. So we're looking at the draft pool. We're gonna be watching it very closely in case there's gonna be another another pitcher that comes up in the system. Someone like a Jason DeCaro. If we see some better results from him over the course of maybe the next month or two, if his scouting looks a little bit nicer, maybe we'll go after him. If we feel like that's the case, we might be able to do that. But we are looking for that mock draft to be revealed as soon as the draft pool is finalized, and that should be happening sometime. Yeah, in about a month, we'll have the draft pool being announced, I believe. No, actually, I think it's in 12 days we'll have that, basically. 12 or no, 10 days. 10 days we'll have that. So that was happening while we were trying to do some negotiations for contracts. Of course, all the while we are looking for, minor league options for us to be able to sign off free agency. We made a second wave of trades. Two more trades happened right after we missed out on Nam. We were kind of like, okay, so we'll shift gears and we'll try to, basically just kind of resolve some issues and get some trades in, because we were actually getting some trade offers from teams while we were doing all of this. And the Boston Red Sox came to us and asked us if we would like Brayan Bello. He has a little bit of money on his contract, which I may not have recognized when I first made the deal, but we should be able to work around that and be able to hopefully develop him a little bit and just stick with him for a little bit of time. But we ended up picking up Brayan Bello, and we also were able to pick up Delvinson Reyes, who is another interesting pitching prospect here. So we're actually a little more interested in Delvinson Reyes, and this is kind of why we made the deal in the first place. He will be starting in the rookie system this year. He joins a whole bunch of other international type discovery prospects that are going to be trying to make it big in our rookie system this year. We ended up getting rid of Jose Acosta in the deal to make this happen, as well as Peyton Carr, who we had picked up in a deal with the Minnesota Twins for Carlos Hernandez. So Carlos Hernandez turns into Peyton Carr, who turns into, hopefully, a good Dalvinson Reyes starting pitcher. So we're hopeful that that turns out pretty nicely. Peyton Carr, again, one of those people who has some middling prospect abilities, but he's kind of a generic first base prospect. He'll be starting in single A for the Boston Red Sox. The other trade we had on the list was again with the was with the Los Angeles Angels, if my memory is correct. Yeah, the Angels ended up doing a big deal with us. We tried to put on some more to this deal, and then we had to end up dialing it back a little bit. This is like an 11-player trade, I believe. We gave them Brody Brecht, which is a huge loss for us. This is going to be a potential huge loss, but at the same time, the stamina is low, the control is low. I just don't see this happening. I don't see him becoming anything more than maybe a really good closer down the road. I think that's the best he can become. We really weren't going to, I wasn't going to put too much into him. We did also give them Justin Lower, who is actually our prospect all-star from last year, but he's a bullpen person. He should always be a bullpen person, so we basically gave the Angels two bullpen arms who could have upswings as starters, but Lower especially should be a bullpen arm. We also gave him Tanner Gordon, a 28-year-old starting pitcher who has been in the minor leagues all of last year. We gave them Guanpei Xiao, who was another outfield person we had signed as a minor league free agent last year. He did really well in single A and triple A, but unfortunately he's a 2-star prospect. He doesn't really have a whole lot left to develop. He is 28, and at this point, I just don't see him being able to compete with people like Benny Montgomery, Zach Veen, Yanquiel Fernandez. It's just not possible for us to play him, and the people we got back were much, much better. We got Juan Flores, who is the number 97 overall prospect. He is a very good catching prospect. He helps shore up a very lackluster catching situation we have in our organization. We're actually understaffed in the catcher's position, so we desperately needed traded some, so this is a good pickup for us right here. We also picked up Nelson Rada, who is the number 84 overall prospect now in baseball. He is a better outfield version of Zhao, basically, and younger too at this point. So we're very happy to have Nelson Rada. He's going to be starting in A+, even though he played in AAA last year. We also picked up Carlos Camancia, who is another top-tier prospect. He'll be trying to play third base. He's 18. He'll be in the rookie system this upcoming season, and we hope that he can learn and do a good job at third base. He's got a similar, that kind of like Nolan Arenado type build, where it's like, okay, if he develops the defense, gets that up higher, this is a pretty good batting profile. This is pretty good for a Nolan Arenado type style character at that point. Pedro Aguirre, I believe, it was another person we picked up in this deal. This is actually someone we looked at in the international amateur free agency in, I believe it was quarter 1 or quarter 2. No, quarter 1. In the quarter 1 video of 2025, we actually looked at Pedro Aguirre, and we thought we wanted to pick him up. So this is actually a huge pickup for us. He was $2.1 million for the Angels to pick up out of the international amateur free agency system. He is an outfielder, 4-star outfielder potential. We have high hopes that he might be able to develop into a pretty decent left fielder down the road. So we kind of fleeced the Angels on this deal because we also picked up George Clayson, who we are hoping to develop a little bit more, and he just kind of gives us some depth in the starting rotation area for basically single A, double A. He's not as good, but he kind of gives us a return value that we kind of wanted to get. We also picked up another 21-year-old starting pitcher, Barrett Kent was the last person in this deal. He's a little more upswing than Gleason, I believe. Right, Gleason? Clayson, my apologies. Kent's a little bit better than Clayson in regards to some things, but him and Clayson will both be in A+ ball, trying out as starting pitchers in the A+ ball system. So couple of big trades for us. We really tried to make some deals over the course of the off season. All the while we were doing more scouting on the international amateur free agents that were coming through the system. Alvarado got a better improvement. Bernal actually did end up getting a bit of a boost, and that pushed us to go after Bernal and Cancel. So we were actually, we went full in on both of them once the free agency period began. Basically, we ditched Duran. It was probably not a good choice. Duran got really good on his development. He's going to be something special, and the Padres picked him up. The Padres ended up paying about $4 million to pick him up, and that was kind of why we thought we weren't going to be able to go after Duran, because it just probably wasn't going to make sense for us. The international period started. We sent out deals and offers to Cancel and Bernal. Those were the two people that we wanted, and we got both of them immediately. We ended up getting Cancel for about $3.5 million. He's now officially the number 7 overall prospect in baseball. So we basically doubled up on the Richard Dominguez type pitchers. I don't know how we've managed to do that, but I've blown away Richard Dominguez and Carlos Cancel. They both are signed. They're both actually going to be starting in the rookie ball system this year. I don't know why the AI promoted them from our international prospects list, but they did. So we're going to throw them. We're going to throw them in the rookie ball system this year and hope and pray that they're going to be able to develop. And we just hope and pray that our coaching staff is going to be able to help out with that. Bernal ended up becoming a 3.5-star prospect. He's not ranked, but I still like his profile. And for the amount of money it took to get him, which was about $1.25 million, $1.25 million to be able to pick up Bernal and Cancel, we picked up two very good starting pitchers in the amateur free agency signing period. So we are very happy about that. We did pick up some free agents, Luis Arias, minor league signings, basically. He was someone we ended up picking up over the course of the free agency period, basically. And it was good. We were able to do a good job of, bringing in a bunch of more depth to our team. We filled out our roster once again. Ichiro Suzuki becomes elected into the Hall of Fame. Manny Ramirez gets dropped. A whole bunch of other people got dropped as well. We'll have to see if Carlos Beltran, Andrew Jones, CC Sabathia, Alex Rodriguez, if they can get in over the course of the next couple of years at this point. Monfort gave us an update on our money. He said it's the same, so $180 million is still going to be our available for total expenses for the regular season. Ended up grabbing Mauricio Dubon. He's going to be starting in AAA, as is, I believe, Arias. So both of them are going to be kind of like waiting for injuries before we'll bring them up. Our player development was interesting. We had some pretty bad signs from Romo as our catcher, but he's back up to 4 stars already. So he's going to kind of flex a little bit here and there as we kind of move forwards. But we're very interested in other people in our rookie system. A couple people had some pretty good improvements over the course of the last couple of months. Oliver Cedeno being one of them. So interesting how some people get lots of development, some just get nothing, unfortunately. Richard Dominguez did have, unfortunately, his very first reduction in ratings. As you can see, his stuff is starting to go down. So this is unfortunately what we're going to start to see, is that some of our international prospects that we signed that are international amateur free agents, they will come back down to earth a little bit as we develop them into the future. So we're still hoping that our number 4 overall prospect, Richard Dominguez, will still be okay, but him and Cancel are supposed to be pretty good. We're still hoping for some good stuff from both of them. Otherwise, we still did, of course, our whole entire improvement programs. Basically, we did the whole development labs to be able to see if we can get some people improved. Talon Haley is one of our drafted people from 2025. He's starting to become pretty good. He's the number 49 overall prospect in baseball. And if we go to his AAA ratings, this is kind of what may be a little more realistic for what he can develop into. He's got some potential to be able to develop into something quite good for us. If we can develop that fastball, I think the stuff will be really good. He had some really good control improvements, and we liked that a lot. That actually was one of his weaker points, was that his control was a little bit susceptible to problems. You can go back to the Q2 video, I believe, where we talk about our draftee, and I think Haley was in that list. And then another big one was Jackson Cox. He was actually able to get his control up as well. He's looking like a really good version of, kind of a more developed version of Haley at this point. And we're hopeful that he'll be able to play well in A+ this year. He's finally moving up from the rookie system at this point, where he had a good year last year. And Jackson Cox could be an interesting pitching prospect for us moving forwards. And then a big one, Ezequiel Tovar got a 17 rating improvement for avoiding Ks. And that was huge. That might make him solidified as a very good batter for this upcoming season. I'm still waiting to see him get back up to 4 stars, and that defense is slowly creeping up there for shortstop. So we're hoping that for a full season of Tovar, he might be able to finally get a really good year, and he might be able to take a shot at the MVP system if he has a really good season. Otherwise, right before opening day, I think before opening day, we signed Jordan Montgomery to, I believe it's a $5 million contract, $4 million contract for Jordan Montgomery to basically become our ace pitcher for the year. I know that sounds so bad, but basically our pitching staff this year is going to be Jordan Montgomery, Brayan Bello, Ryan Feltner, Nick Pivetta, another free agency signing, and Aaron Civale. So we have basically a bunch of quad A players here. We're just trying to keep ourselves looking respectable in regards to some stuff. At least our potential is finally all 2.5 stars. We don't have any 2-star players on the list. We're finally being able to work through some stuff and get actually some respectable arms who can maybe give us a chance to win every single day when they go on the mound. So we got Jordan Montgomery. He was still a free agent by the time he got to the close end of spring training, I believe, and that was just a good move for us to be able to bring him on, make sure that he was good, and we're hopeful that he can at least have a semi-decent season. He might be someone we trade bait by the trade deadline, though. If he's having a really good season, we probably will ditch him and a bunch of our other players who are doing very well, who we do not expect to keep. Otherwise, there was one more update for player development. Sean Sullivan did well. Yanquiel Fernandez did pretty well. We had some pretty good developments from some of our players. You can see a lot of people, though, unfortunately. Some of our quad A free agency signings are going down, unfortunately. But we have had some pretty good developments from some of our players. Mason Albright's continuing to develop, even though I don't think he'll ever be able to be in the major league squad. I think he's still really good. Angel Seville might be someone that we bring up as a bullpen arm over the course of the regular season. He was in rookie ball last year. I don't know why, but he will be starting in AA this year. He probably would be someone that we bring up as a backup or replacement bullpen arm if someone gets injured. Even though he's only 2 stars, he is fully developed and pretty good. Amador. We've decided to teach Amador how to play third base. because with the leaving of Ryan McMahon, third base is completely open, and we do need to be able to have someone play third base. So Ariel Amador will be playing third base for the upcoming season. He's almost fully trained there. We played him there during spring training. We also gave him a little bit of some development lab time, and he actually came back having an outstanding improvement at second base, which will likewise improve third base. So his defense now is actually on par basically with Ezekiel Tovar. So we actually have two potential shortstops with Amador and Tovar for the current season. We also picked up another minor league free agent. That was Nicky Lopez, and he will be our backup shortstop and our starting second baseman for the regular season. So we will be using Lopez for his defense and a little bit of his speed. He'll just be a time gap for us to be able to get to the next level of our rookies as people begin to come into our system and we try to play them. Speaking of rookies in the system, we will be playing Jordan Beck at first base for the entirety of the regular season if possible. Benny Montgomery is going to be our starting left fielder. Yanquiel Fernandez will be our starting DH. Those are the big names coming into the system with no major league experience. We're hoping that they will all do well and that they'll be able to have a good time in this season. So 3 rookies. 3 different rookies in our lineup for 2026. We are starting the first wave. We're starting the first wave of people who can potentially and hopefully make our team even better. Jordan Beck did get some pretty good outfield improvements. We're hopeful that becomes something important maybe down the road, but for now, we're going to play him at first base, and if he does really well, we might actually consider him trade bait as well. I know he's only 24 and he's got some decent potential, but he doesn't really have a whole lot more upswing left to be able to get into. And outside of just being able to maybe provide some quad A style play, I don't really see Jordan Beck staying on the team for more than maybe a year or 2. That got us up to the opening day. We updated all of our prospects list at this point. Richard Dominguez is now officially number 4. Cancel is 7. Charlie Condon moves down to 8. And as you can see, Dollander is not on the top 10, unfortunately. So Dollander moves to 18. Quentin Young's now 33rd. We do have a pretty big list of prospects, though, as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner down here. We got 4, 7, 8, 18, 33, 49th, 61st, 76th, 83rd, 84th, 93rd, 96th, 97th. It just keeps going on and on. Almost the entire list is people in the top 200 prospects list for baseball. So we have done a very good job of developing people and being able to bring on a whole bunch of prospects who might be able to be something big for us. And we're very excited, very, very excited about that. And we'll see how it goes for the regular season. Wrapping this video up, I guess we did fire or release Mike Redmond from our AAA team. He just doesn't work well with the players there, unfortunately. He was average and it wasn't looking very good, so we have dropped him. We already have a offer out to a new head coach for the AAA team. None of our minor league people wanted to go to AAA, unfortunately, for some reason. So we're looking to bring someone else in from the outside. Hopefully that goes well. And otherwise, I guess I'll show you guys our entire staff and we'll end on that note. So starting pitchers, we're going to, again, of course, have Montgomery, Bello, Feltner, Pivetta, and Seville. Rayleigh, Vodnik, Crawford, Herget, Leclerc are going to be basically our main relievers. McDermott is a Rule 5 pickup, actually, for us, as well as Quinton Lowe. Both of them are going to be in our long relief situation with Kun Woo Kim, unfortunately, being relegated to our bullpen for now. If any of the starting pitchers on this list, though, any of our starting 5 have problems, Kim will be coming in to replace them, and we are expecting Kim to be a big part of the team moving forward, at least for another season. In regards to the offense, the depth chart's going to be your better option to see all of that. As I mentioned, Amador plays third base for the regular season. We've been training him on third base. Currently, Palacios is scheduled to play in right field, but we'll see how that goes. We might end up sticking Jordan Beck into right field and then letting Mark Hanna play first base. But as it is right now, we'll be looking at approximately Benny Montgomery playing left field. Doyle should be back in center field. Palacios is scheduled to be the starting right fielder. Amador, Tovar, Lopez, and Beck are going to be the infielders, with Drew Romo behind the dish and Yanquiel Fernandez at the DH position. That gives us Mark Canha, Vaughn Grissom, Yasmani Grandal is our backup catcher, and Cedane Rafaela is going to be our backup utility players. So Grissom and Rafaela are going to be able to help a whole bunch around the entire infield and outfield, and then Mark Canha is basically our pinch hitter / DH replacement. So we'll see how this goes. And we're very interested to see how all of the organization ends up panning out. We did officially designate for assignment Tristan McKenzie and Nabil Krismat. We are not going to be having them playing in the big leagues this year, and they just had some really rough spring trainings. They didn't develop well, and I'm going to see if we can keep them in AAA, but at the moment, if they don't do well, we're not going to keep them. We did sign a whole bunch of people for our minor leagues. As you guys can see, our minors are actually looking a little bit barren. We actually have a whole bunch of we have a whole bunch of pending minor league contracts, mostly to a bunch of catchers and some other people out there. We're hoping to be able to bring in probably about another 30 more players before the regular season really kicks off here too hard, and be able to fill up a couple more of these positions, especially our DSL Rockies 2 team needs to have more than 22 players. So we're working on all of that, but then our big one is going to be our DSL 1 team. This is going to be having Cancel, Dominguez, Bernal, Reyes, and Camacho. 5 of our best relief or starting pitching options outside of maybe, say, Haley and Dollander are going to be playing on the same team in the rookie system. So I'm very excited to see how these 5 players do. We are going to force them to be starting pitchers for right now. So we're going to kind of try to see if we can kind of nudge the AI towards developing them and getting them all set and ready to go. We're very, very excited to see how they develop and if they can stick around. Again, like we mentioned in our first video, if Dominguez can retain to a 4-star quality starting pitcher, that is a good development. Okay, that's a good development. That works out pretty well. So we're heading towards that kind of level at this point. If Cancel and Bernal can do that as well, we'd be very, very happy with those people coming up through the system. So the main problem is we have to wait about 3 years to be able to get them fully developed. So by the time they're 20, 21-ish, they might be in AAA. So we have to be able to survive 3 years of basically the Rockies trying to figure out how to get the rest of the squad up there, but not rushed too soon. So we're kind of taking it slow. We are keeping most of our money. We still have approximately $20 million left in the bank at this point, and that's on top of us basically using $26 million on our player development budget, $20 million towards our draft budget, since we are getting the number 2 overall prospect. I'm going to need that $20 million. We've got about $4.7 million for the international amateur free agency budget. We will update that to 5.7 when we get to the off season, before we get to the signing period for them. So that will become another $1 million there. And then scouting is $24 million. We are pushing a lot of money into our development, our scouting, and our ability to really work outside the organization to bring talent into the organization. Now, that being said, and the last thing I think we'll talk about in this video, our predictions. We are expected to finish 4th, better than the San Francisco Giants. We're not going to have very good pitching once again, but we are expected to score 712 runs, have 122 home runs. We're not going to steal that much, but somehow we're supposed to win 76 ball games. So we'll see how it goes. The Dodgers expected to win 100. The Baltimore Orioles are expected to win 102, and they are expected to give up some of the least number of runs in the league, mostly because of the fact they have Bradish, Rodriguez, Gallen, Herter, and Garrett. This is a very good rotation and a very good bullpen. They still have Tanner Scott. Or they picked up Tanner Scott, my apologies. They picked up Aaron Bummer in the offseason, and they still have Felix Bautista and Keegan Aiken. So they've got a good squad. I expect big things from the Baltimore Orioles. We'll see how stuff goes. And I will see you all in quarter 1 of 2026.